Mavrik, and what was the thoughts behind that selection?
Well, we had him down as one of the best players available for us on our first round list that we left. High end skill, hard, high IQ, hockey IQ. We just like the overall.
Hey, and Jim, when you guys are watching how this draft played out, what was kind of the thought when you were looking at the picks? Is this something you kind of expected him to be there as things were playing out? And what was kind of your thought as it did?
Yeah, he was going to be in our range. You keep track of the draft as you're going, and when you get down to about 10 picks before you're picking, kind of start to weed things out. And that's where Joe started to talk to the scouting staff. Kind of got a range of 5 or 6 players. You think kind of start discussing those players again because we're later in the draft. You just want to make sure they're not finished products yet, so you just want to go through that. This is a little bit different year of the draft because some of these players have been scouted during the season already, so it gives us a chance to kind of review kind of their off seasons where they're at. So. In the end, very happy that we got Mavrik. Like his overall skill set.
All right, next we'll go to Mike Heika. Mike.
Hey, Jim. How important is it to give a guy who's like 30th overall a little more time? You've been picking 3rd or 14th. This seems like a different type of situation.
Yeah. Once you get past the top 10, top 12 players, you're talking guys that are going to need time. But that's part of the development process. And like when you're picking, I told the guys, unfortunately, we couldn't be in the back row this year. They like to be picked in that back row.
All right, next we'll go to Matt DeFranks. Matt?
Hey, Jim, how heavily did you weigh potentially trading down since you don't have a 2nd or a 3rd?
I, over the last 3-4 days, been talking to teams, and really wasn't just from talking to teams. Everybody was pretty set. There's going to be a lot of movement. Calgary did a couple moves, players that those a couple players there that were hanging up pretty high that we had ranked high that were still there. So a couple teams moved up to get those guys. But other than that, not a lot of talk about moving down to get additional picks.
All right, Mike, back to you.
Hey, Jim. What's this like? I mean, obviously, you're going to have to squeeze a lot of stuff in right after coming out of the bubble. How do you handle this whole week?
Well, we've been busy. As soon as we got home, the first thing was to take care of the players coming out of the bubble. We wanted to get guys back home. We had to get their medicals taken care of, exit interviews. So it's been a pretty hectic 4 or 5 days getting that all taken care of, getting medical reports and any medical information had to be done, and getting these players back to their homes. So we've been focused on that, but in the meantime, we've been working on the draft. That's where Joe McNeil and his staff have done a great job. They've been organized. We started talking, even before we went in the bubble, things were organized, but we started kind of refining things as we got into the bubble and got closer to this time. Then I've been working with the pro scouts on the free agency. Been talking to a lot of agents regarding players we have to get signed. So it's busy times, but it's times that we kind of enjoy. So it's been good.
Hey, Jim, what was it like kind of running this whole thing? Because obviously it looks like you were at home. I know Whitey and Jenks were in the war room. Joe was back in Canada. What was this like, kind of running this whole experience like?
It was different, but that's why first of all, Joe and his staff have done a great job. So they've been doing Zoom calls going way back to March and April as soon as the pandemic hit. So they've been organized that way. Video scouting, interviewing players, via Zoom and those other means. And so we are very set that way. The league did a good job. It all ran smoothly. Over the last 3-4 days, we've been doing practice runs in the office, connecting to the head office in New Jersey, I believe, is where they've been working out of the offices there. So NHL did a great job. It ran smooth. We were on Microsoft Teams here. Our whole staff was, so actually kind of enjoyed it. We're sitting there, everybody's on their computers. We're talking back and forth, and it actually worked very smooth. And once again, our staff, they were prepared for this, and they did a good job.
All right, is there anything else for Jim before we let him go?
I got one more. Jim, just with tomorrow, I know that you got the RFA deadline tomorrow. Just one other piece of business. Any update on where you are with RFAs and things like that? I think it's 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock tomorrow. You have to figure those things out.
Yeah, well, we've sent out qualifying offers. We'll send a press release out tomorrow. But the primary guys, we've qualified those guys, and the one priority is going to be Radek Faxa. He's got arbitration rights, so we'll kind of focus on him, but we've got a little bit of time with that. And the other guys, I've talked to the agents and just told them, let's get through the draft, let's get through the start of free agency, and then I'll circle back and discuss their contracts and go from there. And just so everyone knows, I plan on having a press conference. I know everybody's been patiently waiting. We had to get through these, all our medicals and exit interviews, and I plan on having a press conference Thursday sometime. We'll send that notice out to everybody, but we plan on Thursday talking to the media just to review the season, and we can also review the draft now that it'll be finished.
All right, next we'll go to Mike Heika. Mike?
Hey, Jim. We haven't had you for a while. Can you comment on Andre being re-signed for 2 years and how important he was in the playoffs?
Well, he's a big part of our team. He did a good job during the regular season. Came back, back into the bubble here, and when we got into Edmonton, he got some injuries, and he really stepped up. And he's a pro through and through, and important part of our team. And that was the best part. When I talk Thursday, we'll talk more about this. But being in the bubble, you really got to know people and see how they interacted with their other teammates. And he was a big part of our team. He's a real calming influence. He doesn't panic, and really worked well with a lot of the younger players. So it was important to get him signed up, get our back end settled, and then we just move forward from there.
All right, anything else?
Well, thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Joe,
Thanks,
it's all yours.
Thanks, Jim. Next, we have Joe McDonnell, our Director of Scouting. Joe? Oh. Joe, are you there?
I am here. Are you guys there?
We are. All right. So we've got Joe McDonnell ready for your questions. We'll start with Mike Heika. Mike?
Hey, Joe, can you just take us through what kind of player Mavrik is and why he was of interest to you?
I think his high hockey IQ, I think, was a big factor with him. He's far from the finished product, I think, right now. He's a little bit on the slight side. He's going to have to bulk up, just like most kids at that age. He's, far from being physically mature right now, but I think already since the end of last season, I think he's already about 1.5 inches taller and about 10 pounds heavier. So it's just something that's just going to take its time, take its toll. But in the end, he's a big point producer, and we just love the way he competes.
Next, we'll go to Saad Youssef. Saad?
Hey Joe, what kind of differences were in play this year with all the unique circumstances, the different timelines, and the resources at hand? What kind of things did you have to kind of work around?
Well, not being able to go live to any games in the playoffs, and then in April the World Under-18 Championships. Those are two big things that we do as scouts, and it really confirms things that you've seen and witnessed for the first 3 quarters of the season pretty well. So that was hard, definitely. But we just moved everything into the video part of it. Just watching games on through video through different resources that we tried to dig up, and Zoom calls with players, maybe get to know their backgrounds a little bit more than maybe other years, I think. So those were the big things.
Hey, Joe, as far as looking at where Mavrik was on your board, I know we talked the other day about how this is a draft where obviously everyone has kind of different opinions. When you look, you got him at 30. Is he someone where he was in the 10, 15 range, 20 range? Like, could you kind of give us an idea of where he was as far as when you went into this draft?
He was after 15, put it that way. But we didn't have him at 30. So he's right in between there. And we had him, up where we just love those skilled guys. So it was, we had him in a pretty good spot.
And then as far as just kind of him as a person, I know that's big for you guys meeting. And so you didn't have that opportunity as much this year without the interview period in person or the combine or anything like that. So what did you guys learn about him as a person, and was that via phone call, Zoom? Just what was that like with this draft and this learning about him as a human?
It was just researching, I think, with his coaches, finding out a little bit about his family life, what goes on. We know his parents are farmers. He's up early every morning. He's farming. He'd go to school. He comes back and he does more farming. So we know he's a real competitive kid, and I think he's really down to earth. And just the farming aspect was a big thing with him too, with his work ethic. It sort of shows on the ice, I think, and finding out about his background too, and in the weight room, things like that. He's just a real hardworking kid at whatever he does.
Anything else for Joe?
I'll ask one more. Joe, as you what's kind of your mentality as you go into tomorrow? And obviously it's Jim, if right now you go into tomorrow without a second or a third, what's kind of your mentality as you kind of watch things play out for a day two in a draft like this?
Yeah, well, there's really nothing you can do early on, for sure. We still have an awful lot of good names on our board, so it's you just have to wait and see what the other teams are up to, what they're thinking, and I'm sure there's going to be some players still sitting there in the rounds where we're picking. So we just have to again, we've done all the research, all the background work, things like that, and we have them in our order, in our proper order, and we'll just have to take it pick by pick, round by round, I guess, tomorrow.
Anything else? All right, Joe, you are good to go. Thank you so much for joining us. Everybody else, we will have Mavrik on shortly, probably looking at about 15 minutes or so, so just sit tight.